Have you ever noticed that weird looking building to your left right when you're walking into Hollywood Studios and wonder what is in there? Listen to Jim Hill's epic story about opening day, Sid Cahuenga, Michael Eisner, and how much money a conversation cost the company.
Yes, Lauren, that is right. And I'm talking about Sid Cahuenga's One of a Kind. Now, you and Eric you and Eric visited this shop during your most recent trip to Walt Disney World. Am I right? I want to say Eric was telling me the story about how you guys encountered some wet weather just as you were arriving at the studios, and so you were kind of forced up onto the porch at Sid's as you were trying to get out of the rain. Is that right?
That is correct. And I mean, we walked by that place, hundreds of times and never even thought to go in.
And what did you see inside there?
Well, we had no idea what was inside, and there were people kind of standing around on the porch, and we were like, "Wonder if we can go inside?" And there were seated, like there are nice benches and air conditioning in there. So if you're there on a hot day and you're just looking, but there were so many cool like posters and collectible items, and it was just another place that you could actually purchase some high end art, which I thought was really cool and didn't even know was there.
When Disney-MGM first opened in May of 1989, that's 35 years ago this month, by the way, Sid Cahuenga's and Oscar's Super Service, the gas station that's right across the street from Sid's, they were supposed to send a very specific message, tell you a unique story. That you're in the Hollywood that never was, but always will be. By the way, that's actually what it says on the dedication plaque for Disney's Hollywood Studios. That this is a real place where the main industry is fantasy, as in making movies. Now, when you look at Sid's itself, what do you see?
Well, it's not as big and sophisticated as, say, some other structures along Hollywood Boulevard. To me, it basically looks like a house, like a private house, maybe that got turned into a shop.
Jim Schull would be so happy to hear you say that, because that's exactly what the Imagineers were shooting for. A Sid Cahuenga's one of a kind store is supposed to tell guests that once upon a time, Hollywood was this sleepy little town that eventually became the movie making capital of the world. Now, so say if we were to go back to 1910 and wander along the really for real Hollywood Boulevard. Well, back then, that street was lined with modest private homes, just like the one that the one of a kind shop is now operating out of.
So, when did Hollywood become like Hollywood? Like the real Hollywood we know today?
Well, the first permanent movie studio in Hollywood was Nestor Studios. It set up shop at the corner of Sunset Boulevard and Gower back on October of 1911.
Nestor. I do not know that name.
But you will know the name of the company that Nestor merged with in the following year, in May of 2012. That was Carl Laemmle's Universal Film Manufacturing Company, which eventually got shortened to Universal Pictures.
Shut up. No way. Okay, so back to Sid Cahuenga now, who you told me earlier was once actually a character at Disney MGM.
Yes, Sid Cahuenga was once a citizen of Hollywood. Or should I say that he was a member of the streetmosphere characters that used to roam around Hollywood Boulevard at the studio, interacting with and entertaining visitors to this theme park?
Did you say streetmosphere?
Yep. Okay, this was an idea dreamed up by Imagineer Craig McNair Wilson, with the concept being that all of these eccentric characters lived on Hollywood Boulevard, which, if you've ever walked down the really for real Hollywood Boulevard in California, is not a far fetched idea. Anyway, Craig wrote all of these highly detailed backstories for the citizens of Hollywood, and he then hired a bunch of very talented actors who all had great improvisational skills to play these characters, which, which brings me to the story that I wanted to tell on today's show, which has to do with an interaction that the actor who was playing Sid Cahuenga once had with Disney CEO Michael Eisner just before Disney MGM first opened in the spring of 1989.
All right, so now I'm intrigued. What happened?
All right, so picture this, Lauren. It's a week to 10 days before the studios first opens to the public. And Craig is out on Hollywood Boulevard rehearsing with his citizens of Hollywood. You know, they're out there practicing the skits that they have, and the ones that they'll soon be performing for guests as they sort it on the street. But it's now that Wilson noticed that off in the distance, Michael Eisner is now walking down Hollywood Boulevard. He's coming from the direction of the Chinese theater. He's headed toward, the one of a kind shop, and he's surrounded by this flock of flunkies.
So what's Eisner doing there?
Well, all right, you got to assume that this is Disney CEO just making sure that Disney MGM would be ready for opening day. I mean, you got to remember that this is Eisner's very first theme park. More to the point, Michael had spent $400 million building the place, so he wanted to make sure that it shined.
So, what did Craig Wilson do when he saw Michael Eisner heading towards the citizens of Hollywood? Like, hide? Like, I don't know. What did he do?
No, he actually went the other way. He turned to the actor who was playing Sid Cahuenga, that day, and it essentially said, "Sick 'em."
Oh no. So, what happened?
Right. So the actor who's playing Sid lopes over to Eisner and his entourage and sticks out his hand. It's like, "Michael, Sid Cahuenga, so nice of you to drop by." And Eisner, who greenlit the creation of the Citizens of Hollywood and understood exactly what streetmosphere, was immediately in on the gag. And so he decides to play along and say, "Oh, hi, Sid." And he then turns to his flunkies and said, "This is Sid Cahuenga." And he runs the One of a Kind store at the end of Hollywood Boulevard. And now, the actor playing Cahuenga went out skipping a beat. And he's like, "Now, Michael, I'm very disappointed in you. You promised me all those costumes and props from Good Morning in Vietnam. But here we are, just a week out from our official grand opening. And I have yet to see any of that material. How do you expect me to run the One of a Kind store if I don't have any inventory?" And so Eisner laughs and he's like, "Oh, Sid, I'm sorry. I'll take care of that right away." And Michael, who's clearly joking, turns to one of his flunkies and says, "Make sure the people of the studio said Sid everything that we've got left over from the making of Good Morning Vietnam." And then Eisner turns back to the actor playing Sid Cahuenga and says, "Great to see you, Sid." And Eisner and his entourage just continue their inspection tour of Hollywood Boulevard.
Well, that's a cute story and a little interaction between streetmosphere player and the CEO. Can't imagine that.
Wait, it gets better. A week later, a semi pulls up backstage at Disney MGM. A truck driver walks into Sid Cahuenga's One of a Kind shop and says, "Where do you want it?" And the person behind the counter is like, "Where do I want what?" And the driver then explains that he's driven all the way from Burbank, California, with a tractor trailer truck full of props and costumes from Good Morning Vietnam. And evidently, one of Eisner's flunkies hadn't realized that Michael's interaction with Sid that morning on Hollywood Boulevard was a joke. And so he had actually sent a memo back to Disney Studios that, immediate action that Eisner needed all of those props and costumes from Good Morning Vietnam sent immediately to Disney MGM.
Oh no. Oh my gosh. An expensive gag, I guess. How much did that wind up costing the company? Do you know?
You do not want to know. All I can tell you is those costumes and props were on sale at Sid's for years. And that no one at Disney MGM ever dared let anyone back at Disney corporate know that this had all been a mistake, that Eisner had just been joking with Sid Cahuenga.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Well, next time I'm at Hollywood Studios, I'm going to swing into Sid's and see if they've still got any Good Morning Vietnam stuff available for sale. And I'll snap a pic and let you know.